and welcome to the Lit Lotus podcast. This is a community where we love, we inspire, and we thrive together. We are lit. This podcast is for empaths, yogis, and spiritual beings who are seeking holistic health alternatives for mind, body, and spiritual well-being. Manifest your best self through self-love, habit evolution, and the ancient wisdom of Ayurveda. I am your host, Melinda Van Kirk, and I just want to tell you really quick about what I do. I lead transformational journeys to better health and wellness through self-love, self-care, and simple habit evolution. And this is all following the ancient wisdom of Ayurveda. If you haven't heard of Ayurveda, that's yoga's sister science. And it approaches health through a holistic approach, through living a life with ease, with less stress, eating simple foods, a straightforward daily routine to help balance the mind, body, and consciousness. And I take all these concepts and we come together in a community of women called the Living Inspiration Tribe. And this is a collective of women who have committed to improving their mind and body health in a holistic way. We bring in spiritual aspects of living. We bring in energy healing. It is very much a mind-body approach, but we also talk about your simple routines, what foods to eat, founded in the wisdom of yoga and Ayurveda. And the women in my group experience better sleep, improved energy, a healthier weight, less stress, and really become reconnected to their bodies. So it's all about loving, inspiring, and being creative and thriving together in this community. And the reason I lead a group instead of, and I do offer one-on-one coaching, but I prefer the group because you really get results with the group that you don't get with one-on-one coaching. You get accountability, you get specific help, and there is a little bit of one-on-one coaching in my group course as well, but you can lean on each other. We have a weekly Zoom call where we get together, and then we have meetups every couple of months to do something fun like a painting class or vision boarding, and it's just a really amazing community of women. So if this is something that interests you, please head on over to my webpage, melindavankirk.com, or litlotus.me, which will be up and running soon. And just check it out. See what I do. Click on the Living Inspiration Tribe tab at the top. And you can also go over to my offerings and see all the things that I offer there. I am offering a free discovery session right now. If you just want to chat, it's a 30-minute conversation to help you get clear on your wellness goals and to see if we are a good fit to work together. And if what I do is beneficial to you, and if you would be a good fit to work with me. There is no strings attached to that. So you can go on over and check that out. And feel free to message me. I'm also on Insight Timer. I teach yoga weekly, and it's a free/donation-based class every Friday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. So head on over to Insight Timer if you want to see a little bit more of what I do and how my yoga classes are. And I'm also a Reiki master and artist. So all this is available on my website. You can book personal appointments with me if that interests you. And if you're in the Columbus area, you can come see me in person at Balancing Out Yoga and at the Reiki Center. All right. So today's podcast, we are talking about daily routine. Your daily routine is probably the single most important thing you can do for your health. Now, there's a lot of pieces and parts that go into this, which you can learn a little bit more if you want to do a one-on-one session with me. We can talk about it. But essentially, what we're doing by setting up our daily routine, or dinacharya is the Sanskrit word for that, is helping you get back into sync with nature's rhythms. I mentioned on the last podcast, we talked a little bit about your doshas, Vata, Pitta, Kapha. And Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, again, these are the three doshas governed by the 5 elements, which is earth, water, fire, air, and ether. And these elements, 2 of these elements make up a dosha. So Kapha dosha is earth and water, Pitta dosha is water and fire, and Vata dosha is air and ether or space. And these doshas govern the times of day. If we look at our 12-hour clock, there is a period of time that each dosha is prominent. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then we're going to talk about how you can sync your daily routine to be in line with those times of day, to be in sync with nature's rhythms. And then we're going to talk a little bit about what your daily routine looks like. We're not going to put the whole thing out there today because it would be overwhelming and too much information. But I'd like to just kind of introduce this idea of redesigning your day and finding better health through simple changes. We're not even going to look at food so much, maybe when you eat, but not what you eat at this point in time. And then we're going to talk about how your daily routine can become your daily sadhana. If you're not familiar with the word sadhana, that's your daily spiritual practice. We often think of yoga and meditation as part of that daily spiritual practice, but we're going to expand the scope of how you can set yourself up to make each part of your day, each little thing that you do every day, part of your spiritual experience. So let's come back to times of day. We're going to talk a little bit about the Dosha Clock, and that's where those times of Vata, Pitta, Kapha fall into the day. So let's start with your evening routine. We're going to start actually post-dinner or around 6 p.m., and that's Kapha time of day, post-dinner. That is 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. And I'm starting there because as you look at your daily routine and think about how you want to redesign it, I think this is the easiest place to start. We're starting with dinner time, and then we're going to kind of reverse engineer into the morning routine. So if we look at 6 p.m. to 10 p.m., this is where the elements of earth and water are most prevalent in our day. And if you think about earth and water, it's heavy, but it can be flowing, but it can also be damp. So we tend to experience a reduction in energy during this time of day. Energy is naturally moving downwards. And most of us that work during the day can relate to that experience, right? Have you ever been driving home from work? Maybe it's between 5 and 6 p.m. and all of a sudden your energy just drops. Now, it might be that you're just overly exhausted because you've been working so hard all day, but it's a natural cycle in nature's rhythms for the energy to begin to slow down. So when you are setting up your daily routine, I invite you to see if you can have your food prior to this energy drop. Now, I know life might inhibit that, but at least as close to 6 p.m. or between 5 and 6 that you can. Because after that 6 p.m. time slot, and this is not a hard and fast rule of 6 p.m., but approximately 6 p.m., the energy naturally begins to go down. So it's much more beneficial to your digestion to eat lighter and to eat earlier. So we want to eat before that Kapha time of day, before the energy naturally drops, because your body will be able to digest the food better. So let's say you eat about 5:30 p.m. You're done eating by 6. That's ideal. Then your body naturally begins the energy moves down, right? You think about energy in the body moving down, digestion naturally starts to happen. So that's why it's the ideal time of day. Our bodies now have all this time in the evening before bed where we're winding down. All the stress and tension of the day, we can wind down. It's a great time of day then post-dinner to do some light yoga, go for a walk outside, do some family activities. If you can finish up your food and not make your meal so heavy, remember, we're lightening up dinner, and we're doing that for a purpose because you want to be able to feel fresh and light when you wake up. And it'll also help improve your sleep. So it might not seem intuitive to think, how can this help my sleep? But that's just how we were designed. Before we had electricity, right, we had maybe the light of the fire. And especially as you get into winter months, right, everything's dark by 5 p.m. if you're anywhere near my side of the world in Ohio. But you want to be in sync with nature's rhythms. And that's the time of day where you have a light dinner. You have family time in the evening, and then you go to bed early. You feel your body's natural fatigue. And goal then is to be in bed by 10 p.m. So we're starting with these first 2 habits of your daily routine, thinking about winding back your day, eating earlier, eating lighter for dinner, and winding back your bedtime. If you can be asleep by 10 p.m., That's ideal because that's the end of our Kapha period. Our energy is naturally moving down, and I'm sure a lot of us can relate to this. Around like 9 o'clock, have you ever just felt so exhausted, or even 8:30? And you're like, why am I so tired? I can't believe how tired I am. And then you stay up, and then all of a sudden around like 10, you start to get a little burst of energy, right? You start to be like, oh, I feel so good now. I'm awake. I feel great. Sometimes you might get a little hungry. You might have a little snack. So that's because your body's natural energy starts to move up at 10 p.m. We start to move into that Pitta time of day. So Pitta time of day is 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. And we're going to go back through this because each dosha governs 2 periods within a 24-hour day. So if you're awake past 10 p.m., energy naturally starts to rise. And you naturally start to get hungry. Pitta time of day is really when we should eat our biggest meal, but we're looking at that at noontime, not at midnight. But if you're ever awake, you might start to burn the midnight oil, you might start to do work really late, you have this natural energy that's moving up and you're ready to rock and roll. And then you can't get to sleep, right? So you stay up till midnight, you're doing work, you had a little snack, you go to bed, and then you're wide awake, you can't get to sleep, and your mind's racing, and you're like, oh crap, I gotta get up tomorrow. And you've now spent the next day's energy the night before. And your body isn't able to digest as well. So if you had a little snack, you're going to bed with some food in your belly, it naturally breaks it down while you're sleeping, because Pitta, our bile is governed by Pitta energy. And so midnight, normally you're sleeping, your body's doing its job, and it's breaking down the food in your belly. So then when you wake up, you feel light and refreshed. You don't feel heavy and lethargic. But if you go to bed on a full belly, you're likely to wake up feeling slow, groggy, you're getting up late, you struggle to get out of bed, you hit snooze on the alarm, right? It becomes a cycle. So you've now spent your energy by staying up late from the next day, the night before. So there's a reason for all these things, right? So we want to go to bed early, and you need to start probably slow. So if you're going to bed at midnight, you got to start dialing it back little by little. You're not going to be successful if all of a sudden you're trying to go to bed at 10 p.m. unless you're really tired and exhausted. But it takes you time for your body to get back into sync, back in line with nature's rhythms. If we're so far off and our sleep's so messed up, it takes time. And there's a reason I teach a year-long group program. And I know it's a lot for people to swallow. Like, I'm committing to something for a year, but it's going to take a year to kind of get into these habits, at least. And then you work on them for the rest of your life. They're not something that all of a sudden you're doing and then, great, I'm good to go. I mean, doesn't mean that you have to stay in the support of the group. Some people choose to, some people don't. But you have those habits in place, and you've had a year to build on those habits and to get deeper into each habit. And that sets you up for success as you leave the support of the group. And sometimes you might go off and come back, and sometimes you're good. And then you start sharing this with others, and you say, oh my God, it feels so amazing, right? So let's come back to our dosha clock. So Pitta goes from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. And that's, remember, our water and fire elements. These are your transformative elements. Fire is our digestive fire. It helps us digest the food in our bellies. And we're going to move on from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. And this is our Vata time of day. Vata is the elements of air and ether. And during this time of day, the energy becomes a little bit scattered. It can be very expansive or scattered, and it's kind of just moving in all directions, right? So how you, I don't want to say interpret, but how your body receives that energy probably depends on where you were at in the energy period before that. So if you were sleeping soundly and you ate an earlier, lighter dinner and you had some great evening activities, you didn't watch a lot of television, we can talk about that later. But you're setting yourself up then to hopefully have a solid night's sleep and rise early. Maybe you're waking up at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. You're feeling refreshed. You're feeling ready to go in your day. You have this natural inclination to rise during that Vata time period. Some people go to bed really early, like 8, and they wake up at 4 a.m. And that's because their body is ready for sleep at 8 p.m. And they're actually ready to rise at 4 a.m. because of the way the energy moves. And if you think of air and ether, it's wind, it's space, it's movement, it's scattered, or it's flowing, right? And that's the perfect time of day to do your morning sadhana, your morning ritual, your yoga, meditation. Your mind is expansive. It's also a good time of day if you need to be focused on something. So maybe you've done your morning routine and then you're like, all right, I'm going to get to work. I think a lot of us have experienced where you wake up in the middle of the night and your brain is going like, oh my gosh, I have all these things to do, da, 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 da. And you feel like you could just hop out of bed and do all these things, except you want to stay asleep. But that's that Vata energy. When you have a Vata imbalance, your mind wakes up and it's going do, 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 and you're like, I just need to sleep, right? So that's a whole different experience, but there's two ways that your body can receive that energy. But ideally, if you've gone to bed early, you've had an early or later dinner, and you've had a nice night's sleep, you're going to rise early and feel refreshed. Now, let's say you don't wake up till 7 a.m. You're really going to start to notice, I'd say around 6:30 probably-ish. You want to be out of bed before that if you can, like 6, even earlier. But I feel it around 6:30 in the morning if I don't get up. You start to feel really tired. The energy, guess where it's going? It's going back to Kapha period. So we're now at 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. And the energy naturally starts to move down. So we're coming back to this earth and water energy. And Kapha period is actually a great time of day to do some vigorous exercise, get out for a morning walk. Let's say you haven't done your yoga yet. Honestly, I get up about 6, so I'll get up and do my morning ritual, which we're not going to talk about the whole morning ritual today. There's a whole daily routine that goes with my morning, starting with gratitude and tongue scraping and all these wonderful tools that Ayurveda provides. And then moving into my yoga and meditation practice. And my morning elimination prior to that. So that's very important in the day, starting your day off feeling refreshed, clean, ready to go. But then during that Kapha time, when the energy is naturally moving down, if you're still in bed, you're probably going to stay in bed. You struggle to get out of bed because you haven't made it up by 6:30 or 6 a.m. And there's a real difference. And if you are a Kapha person or have a Kapha imbalance and then you stay in bed till 7, you know what a struggle it can be. Because you're the person that might be able to sleep 10 hours, no problem, right? So it's really, really important to make yourself get up during that Vata time so you can feel that expansive energy. There is a Sanskrit word that's Brahma Muhurta, and I'm probably butchering that pronunciation, so forgive me if I am, but Brahma Muhurta. And it's that golden hour. It is that time when you get to see the sunrise. It is that time to take in the beauty of the day. So if you can witness that, even stepping outside on your back porch, which I love to do, and just feel the expansiveness of the morning sun coming up, feel that golden hour. It's a wonderful time to practice your yoga actually during that time because you get this sort of natural high, this wonderful experience. You breathe in the air and you're taking on the day. You're hearing the birds chirping. Like, we're cueing into what nature's doing around us. It's rising at 5 a.m. It's going to bed early. And so we want to sync our bodies, our minds back into those rhythms of nature. So let's say you're up by 6 a.m., you do your morning routine. And this is where we start to bring in this idea of sadhana, making it a spiritual practice. You want to expand the mind. You want to make everything that you do throughout your day, though, making it a spiritual practice and being present in the moment. And by having this morning sadhana, this yoga and meditation routine, layered with your dinacharya, you set yourself up mentally for the day in a way that you will not get any other time of day. If you've slept in and you're tired and feeling lethargic, you're not going to feel that expansiveness. You're just not. Even the days I get up late, let's say it's Sunday morning because I went to bed too late Saturday night, I get up at 8:30, which is way late for me. And then I get up, I can barely make myself do my yoga practice. I can barely do my morning routine. A lot of times I skip it if I get up late. I'll sit and do my meditation and I feel like I just want to lay down and go back to bed. So because I'm not up early, because I went to bed too late, I've spent my morning energy and it impacts the rest of my day. So the days where I can get up and have that morning routine, I start to expand into the moment. I set myself up mentally for the day. I'm enlivened and ready to start my day in a way that I would not be otherwise. And then I can extend my sadhana, this spiritual practice. And that might look different for everyone, right? Maybe you're not into yoga. I love moving meditation. So whether that's like Qigong's amazing. I don't do Tai Chi, but I know it has that element. It's mindful movement. Maybe it's a quiet walk outside, no phones, no music. You're just taking in the sunrise. You're taking in the sounds around you. That is mindful movement. So you're expanding into your day with this wonderful spiritual approach. And then you're sitting, whether that's before or after your movement, you're sitting down and you're taking in this expansiveness. Doing your meditation during Vata time of day is where you really feel that energy of expansiveness in your body. And you allow the mind to calm and you become present. You become present in your body, you become present in your breath, and you relax into the moment. You set aside your to-dos for the day. You set aside the long list. You're not thinking about the past. You're not thinking about yesterday. You're not thinking about tomorrow. You're not thinking about next week. You are on your cushion. You are on your chair. You are in the moment, and your mind expands. And then when you have that expansiveness, you allow the body to follow. You allow the rest of your day to unfold in a way that feels natural and feels spiritual. And I promise you, if you start your day that way, everything else is going to shift in your day. Everything else. All right, so we've got our 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. for this Kapha period. It's a great time to focus. It's a great time for vigorous exercise because we want to bring our energy up, right? So if the energy is naturally moving down, you want to do things that are going to bring the energy up. So having a great morning workout routine is perfect. Sitting down and doing the hard things at your desk, perfect. Your mind's focused, you're ready to go. And then you hit that 10 a.m., Pitta time comes back around, energy's moving up, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Your digestive fire begins to feel stoked. You may have had something small to eat in the morning, great. Maybe not, great. Either way. But you'll feel the energy naturally start to rise. And then when you feel your digestive fire begin to burn, maybe it's 11 a.m., 12 p.m., that's your Agni, that's your digestive fire. We want to feel that before we eat. So whether you felt it in the morning, if you're a Vata person, you probably had something in the morning, had something, maybe some cooked fruit or oatmeal or something like that, and you were able to satisfy that. But either way, you're going to start feeling that Agni in your belly, and you're going to then sit and have your big meal of the day. And you don't want to overfeed yourself. We don't want to stuff ourselves, but our main meal at noon is how your body's designed to be. Think about, farmers out on the field. Even 100 years ago, 50 years ago, the cowbell is rung. It's time for lunch. It wasn't even called lunch, right? That was your dinner. Dinner was at noon. And you ate your big meal. And that sustained you for the whole day because your digestive fire was so strong at that point in the day. You were ready to eat. The sun is at its highest point. You think about other animals that are not nocturnal animals. And that's, the belly fire is like saying, okay, feed me. You sit down, you eat a nice big meal. You have a lot of water at this point in the day. You don't overstuff yourself. You leave a little room in the belly. And then that main meal should sustain you through the afternoon. There should be no need for snacking if you've had a meal that is satisfying and fills the belly. You can have your animal proteins at this time. That's the best time of day. And that shifts depending on the season. As we get into summer, we want less of that. But, winter time, like maybe you have your chicken or steak at that time of day. And then you have a full belly, but you feel good. You go on a little walk after lunch. And then you've got your Vata time of day, once again, 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. And that's your time to be creative because once again, you're in this expansive energy. You're feeling good in your body. You moved a little bit to help with the digestion. And then you're able to do your creative things at work. And you really start to focus during this time because you're expansive. if you haven't had all these things, you skipped lunch, you pressed too hard through lunch, and then you're feeling scattered. I'm sure we've all experienced this. The mind just goes every which direction. You might start feeling tired. You might feel like you need your 3 p.m. coffee. You feel scattered. And when you're in balance, you feel expansive. And then towards the end of this Vata period, you sit down, you have your supper, right? Supper is like soup. It's light. It's small. It satisfies the digestive fire as you begin to feel that hunger again. And then it lasts you through the whole evening. So you've set yourself up, and every experience that you can make part of your sadhana, you come into this feeling of balance. You're back in sync with nature's rhythms. And remember that we're having this human experience, and we want to bring our spiritual experience into this physical realm, into our bodies. We want to make our day-to-day part of our spiritual growth. It's not a separate thing. And it doesn't mean that you're not going to church. Maybe you're a religious person. Maybe you're praying. Maybe you're, praying multiple times a day. But you can still make every act that you do that's part of your self-care. It's part of your daily routine. It's part of loving yourself and saying, I'm prioritizing myself above everything else. And I'm going to be more in balance. I'm going to sleep better. I'm going to have better energy. I'm going to make better food choices because I'm feeling satiated in the middle of my day. And then I can be expansive and I can have that spiritual awareness. So we want to transform the most mundane acts of your daily routine into this spiritual sadhana, into an act of love, an act of self-love. So I'm not going to get into every detail because I will be here for another hour if we do that. But I hope this gives you some food for thought around the energies of the day and around setting yourself up to have these experiences through your senses, through your environment, making your walks throughout the day as an act of self-love, an act of awareness. litlotus.me, coming soon. And just check it out. Feel free to schedule a self-discovery session with me if you're curious about how we might work together. Or if that's not your thing and you just want to keep listening to this podcast, that's why I'm doing this. This is free information to help me help others. And if you need help and accountability to take those action steps, or you want a little bit more detail around what those action steps are, you can schedule a one-on-one coaching session with me. Or you can join my Living Inspiration Tribe or join the call to find out what it's all about, where we come together and we're a community of women that truly support one another to take these changes. And we come at it from this approach of spirituality, of holistic health, of balancing mind, body, consciousness. And that's really what yoga and Ayurveda is all about, is bringing us back into this state of balance. And I've said it in other podcasts, but finding the state of homeostasis. And that's where we're headed. And when we are around people that have the habits that we want to have, guess what? We get there a lot faster and quicker. We have the habits of the 5 people we're closest to or we're around the most. And if you're around people that don't have good habits, chances are you're not going to be successful in making changes. All right, I'm going to sign off today. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope to see you again soon. Have a wonderful day, and I can't wait to hear about how you practice your sadhana every day. Feel free to go over to my website, send me an email, drop into Insight Timer, send me a chat, and I will see you soon. Namaste.